When you're playing a fantasy RPG, do you ever just wish you could live in a fantastical world like that? Well, if you do, maybe you shouldn't. I'm my own user number, and today, we're looking at Konosuba.
カズマがちゃんとした冒険者みたいに見えるのです。ジャージのままじゃファンタジー感ぶち壊しだものね。ファンタジー感？
初級とはいえ魔法スキルを習得したからな。盾は持たずに魔法剣士みたいなスタイルで行こうと思う。
言うことだけは言っちゃまえよね。では早速討伐に行きましょう。それもたくさんの雑魚モンスターがいるやつです。新調した杖の威力を試すのです。
いや、一撃が重くて気持ちいい。すごく強いモンスターを。
いいえ、お金になるクエストをやりましょう。ツケを払ったから今日のご飯代もないの。
まとまりがねえ。じゃあジャイアントトードが繁殖期に入っていて町の近場に出没しているらしいから。
カエルはやめましょ
う。なぜだ。
ああ、この二人はカエルがトラウマになってるんだ。頭からパックリいかれて免疫まみれにされたからな。
免疫まみれ。
お前今興奮したろ。
してない。
Our main character is a shut-in gamer otaku named Kazuma. On this particular day, he's actually outside. He needed to go and buy a limited edition of a game, you see. On his way home, he sees a woman almost get hit by a vehicle and leaps to her rescue, pushing her out of the way. He wakes up dead and finds himself face to face with the goddess Aqua. The supposedly benevolent Aqua reveals to Kazuma the rather embarrassing way that he really did die, establishing that he basically sacrificed himself for nothing, and then she mocks him for it. How very holy of her. She then offers Kazuma a choice. He can pass on to boring old heaven, or he can live a life of adventure and excitement in a fantasy world that fears the tyranny of the Devil King and his armies of darkness. As you can probably guess, Kazuma gets excited at the prospect of being a hero. How could he pass up a chance to be the main character of one of those games he loves? While he's considering what magical or cursed object he should take with him as a boon, Aqua continues to harass him, and out of spite, he chooses Aqua as his boon. Another goddess appears and sends the two of them on their way to this new world, much to Aqua's, we'll call it dismay. Now, the only way for Aqua to return to her place as a goddess is for the Devil King to be defeated, and Kazuma was planning on fighting him anyway. So the two of them set out on a journey that is sure to be filled with all sorts of RPG goodness. Dungeon delving, glory and honor, and such other things. Or so Kazuma would like to think. See, this world is very clearly based on RPGs. People have levels, statistics, can learn skills, there's a class system for fuck's sake. And the people of this world are very conscious of all those things. But it's not a game. It's a world, and Kazuma is just another person in it, albeit one with knowledge of his previous life, which kinda helps out sometimes. Soon, Kazuma and Aqua decide to recruit more people to join their adventuring party. And, well, they're certainly full of spirit? First up is Megamine, an arc wizard with a flair for the dramatic who wields the awesome power of explosion magic. And only explosion magic. Which would be fine, I guess, if one use of the spell didn't entirely drain her of magic, rendering her pretty much useless for the rest of the day. And if you're wondering, yes, she could learn other spells, she just refuses to. Why learn anything else when she already commands the most powerful of spells? The other recruit, Darkness, is in a class of her own. Well, not that class. She's a crusader, a powerful holy knight. Essentially the party's tank, and to her credit, she does do that job well. Probably because she enjoys it just a tad too much. There is no two ways of saying this. She's a hardcore masochist. She fantasizes about being, taken advantage of, shamed, or otherwise humiliated in compromising and lewd ways by the various baddies of this world, and her willingness to charge into battle because of that often comes off as bravery to those who don't know that particular detail about her. Also, almost none of her attacks ever connect. Maybe she's just too distracted, thinking about, you know, stuff. Nobody tell her about corruption of champions. Anyway, Aqua is the party's healer, and she's also pretty good at her job, and not for any ulterior reason. But her below-average intelligence, abysmal luck, and never-ending well of pride and haughtiness, due to the fact that she's a goddess, not that that actually gives her any benefits in this particular world, tends to cause problems. And then there's Kazuma, who, for a variety of reasons, winds up adventuring with this band of mostly incompetent misfits. A lot of the comedy comes from him being fed up with his situation or the people around him when he expected something a bit more grandiose. His stats are average across the board, with the exception of a slightly high intelligence and an extremely high luck. This means he's stuck with the basic jack-of-all-trades adventurer class. But with the near genre awareness he gets from having played video games in his previous life, he can sort of steer everyone in the right direction, even though that direction might not hold exactly what he might expect. His other traits are kind of conflicting, but it comes off in a believable way. He's a pervert, but he's shy if a woman he doesn't know does anything sort of intimate. He comes off as self-centered, but he'll usually wind up doing the right thing. I love the core cast of this show, especially Megumin, and most of the supporting characters are great too. They're just fun. The whole show is fun, really, from the concept to the characters to basically every scene. I'm convinced, though I can't really know this, that the people who worked on this show had fun too. The performances from the voice actors are expressive and high energy, the writing is consistently funny, and the animation is often just as expressive as the voice acting. But what I do know for sure is that I had fun watching it, beginning to end, 3 times now. It's clear that the show's first priority at almost all times is comedy. Action scenes are often as ridiculous as they are cool. Sexually provocative scenes do exist, but that sexuality is consistently played for laughs. So if you don't really like fan service heavy shows, it shouldn't bother you too much. And unless I'm remembering wrong, every scene that is emotional or heartwarming is capped off by a joke of some kind. That in particular has bothered me in other shows, but I'm fine with it here. And that's because everything comes from the characters who are so well defined throughout the show. My emotional attachment is ultimately to those characters, and since the comedy comes from them instead of out of nowhere for some sort of gag, it's intrinsic to why I care about them. Instead of the comedy overriding the handful of emotional moments spread throughout the story, they complement each other. There's one particular moment I remember where I was outright crying due to how sad a scene was. Then something funny happened, and I kept crying through the laughter, but I had transitioned to crying because of how happy the scene had made me. I cannot think of anything else that has done that to me through comedy. And because of who the characters involved were, the scene felt entirely natural. That is some damn good writing skill. So yeah, in case you couldn't tell, I like this show a lot. It's easily among my top 10 animes, and if you're looking for something fun to watch, I cannot recommend it enough. Konosuba has 10 episodes and an OVA that's worth watching, with a second season premiering January 11th. It's hard for me to nail down an exact episode where you should know if you'll like this show, because I was in love with it from the first episode. But I'd say that 4 episodes will give you a very good idea of what this show will be throwing at you. That said, this has been I Won't Use a Number. If you like this video, you can subscribe and maybe share it with your friends. Keep loving what you love, and I'll see you next time with something else.